It is time for another off-season here in the Madden 24 franchise rebuild series, the Sim Rebuild series. We're coming off a pretty good opening year with the Niners here, a 9-8 season, middle of the road defense and offense. The passing defense was really bad, but the run defense was good, and the running game for us was also very good with Christian McCaffrey. This is the roster as of right now, and in terms of holes, I think the biggest ones, at least on the offensive end, are number 1, tight end, number 2, wide receiver 2 over Deebo Samuel, and those are the main two. I think those are pretty much the only holes on the offensive side of the ball. On defense, I think we have our bigger concerns, especially in regards to our secondary. So I think right now, one of my main goals this offseason is to try to acquire a number 1 corner, but if we can't, then at least acquiring a really good second or third option as a young player. So I don't believe that Lenoir or Taylor Britt are going to be good enough to be a number 1. And Burrell might be gone with Gordon Harrison up to superstar. So we'll see about that. I'm also thinking about defensive tackle depth. But these are the major free agent signings. And don't forget that Josh Allen is here. Buda Baker is on the market. Nathan Kinney, who won MVP, is on the market here. He did not want to return to Seattle, so he's a free agent. There's a lot of defensive players available. And in terms of tight end, there is Owen Weaver here who is available. He does want about $12 million, and he's had a solid career so far, but he hasn't even been better than Kittle was. And in terms of Kittle's stats, I think Kittle's stats were better last year than any year for Owen Weaver. And Kittle wants less money. He only wants about $6 million. So if we're going to go tight end in terms of signing, you probably take Kittle over Owen Weaver because he wants half as much money for better production. I'm just not sure that with $20 million in cap room that we can really afford to go after somebody like Owen Weaver, because then you pretty much can't make any other signings because you'll have to save the rest for the rookie reserve and all that. In terms of receiver, I saw Kerry Brennan here and I was really impressed. Pretty solid 4 years on his rookie deal with the Saints, playing alongside Olave, so definitely not the number 1. Might even have been the number 3 over there at some point. And he had better numbers in all 4 years than Samuel or Hatchett had this year. And so I decided that I'm going to put Hatchett on the trade block. He just really was not impressive to me at all this past season. But Brennan's numbers are, and they are very consistent too. So I'm going to toss him an offer here. He wants to play for us. So I think we can afford to kind of lowball him slightly. 2 other teams in the running there, but we have the highest offer. In terms of defensive tackle, there were some options for depth, and I could have made a signing here, but I think I would just rather go for the draft instead and get this defense a little bit younger and kind of get some pieces where in 3 or 4 years, those guys are now starters. You have a cycle like that going. In terms of corner options, there weren't any number 1 corners available, and there weren't even players available that would be real improvements over our top 2. So I was looking through and kind of considered signing Snead here, but ended up deciding against it. Tarvarius Ward I considered, but he wanted a lot of money, and there were too many teams that were shelling out for him. So I think I'm just going to go towards the draft for that as well, unfortunately. In terms of signings, we signed Kerry Brennan to the deal. We also bring in fullback Brian Callahan. So we are going to have Brennan as our new number 2. We'll see what he can get us. That's actually Brandon Callahan, by the way. But those are your 2 initial signings. We're down to about $12 million in cap room, and we end up signing 3 more players. All of them are 26-year-old offensive line depth pieces, so a new center, left tackle, and right guard to fill out those holes. And now we can focus on the bigger ones in terms of the NFL draft. We got trade offers for Josh Hatchett here out of the couple of signings, and there were plenty of offers. A lot of teams are really intrigued. They really want Hatchett. He's definitely a hot ticket player on the trade block. There's like 20 different offers here, and I wasn't a fan of most of them because they're mostly defensive players that I think we're going to address in the draft. The Colts, though, still have Jonathan Taylor, and I see why they want to add a better third receiver over Pittman to their core. And they were offering us Christian Kelly, who is playing behind Taylor. So I figured, why not add a really nice depth piece to your offense behind McCaffrey, who has had some injury concerns in his career. And so that's the trade. And Hatchett's gone for a swap for a running back. Mock Draft 5 has us drafting Alex Wooden here in the first round, but that's only because he's currently top of our draft board. I don't see us actually taking him, but we do have 28 total players on our draft board, so I'm going to go through a couple of these, or at least just briefly talk about them. But I think for tight end, you can probably wait on these because you have so many round 1 to 2 options, and they're all pretty similar players. They all have pretty similar skill sets, and Kilroy here is my favorite option for our first round pick. He's a corner with well-rounded coverage skills, good catching. He's not slow. He's got pretty solid speed for a corner, and he's got really good press right out of the gate. So I figured if I am going to go for a player here in the first round and not trade back, I would probably go for a corner, given that the options towards the top are better than the depth pieces. When you can wait on a tight end, you can wait on defensive tackle depth, because I think that Charles Valentine here, a day 3 pick, is a really solid player with elite strength that could be a really, really good depth piece, probably a hidden depth player here as a third defensive tackle. So thinking about that. And they've got Josh Flynn going here at 17 just before us, but then Kilroy does not go until pick 31, so probably just sit there, don't trade up, and just make that pick at pick 18. We'll see. These were the big signings in the open market. I did have to undo the signings for Josh Allen and Jonathan Torres, who is the quarterback in Chicago for the first 4 years. But Allen ends up signing with the Texans, who have Stroud, so that made no sense to me. I don't know why they would ever make that signing. And so I was able to undo it, because you can undo signings in this stage, in these 3 stages. But once you get beyond these 3 and you are past the open market and past the recap, you can't undo those any longer. So I had to undo it for Torres too, because he signed for Pittsburgh when they already had a rookie quarterback last year. We used the focus scouting on Devin Russell, Reggie Oliver, and Valentine. And Russell here is a guy that I think you can wait on to take in a day 3 selection. Maybe round 3 if the other tight ends go. But day 3 pick, I think, is a solid tight end. Not, fantastic or anything, but really solid. We'll see if he's hidden dev or not if we end up drafting him, but tight ends usually hit or miss in terms of the depth trait. Reggie Oliver is another possible day 3 pick with good speed for a corner and just a solid athlete, but not really blowing yourself out of the water with any of these ratings. But the coverage skills are pretty solid. The play rec, though, is low, and so is the press. So if you make that pick, he's probably a future starter in, 3 or so seasons. We got Valentine here up to 90%. And as I said, elite strength for defensive tackle with A play rec, C power and finesse moves, and C block shed, B stamina, B tackle, A impact block, C awareness. I felt like this guy's a really solid option for a late round pick. We'll see if we can end up getting him. But now we're going to go into the draft. First overall pick, Glenn Weston. Now this draft was very interesting, especially in this first round. It was very, very defensive heavy. Very defensive heavy. So the only player so far that's been offensive was the tackle, and then Gabe Taylor, then Ray Gilliard, and then another quarterback here for the Titans. So 2 top 10 quarterbacks go, but then pretty much the rest of these picks were defense until we get later on in this first round. But a lot of linebackers, a lot of edge rushers, just a lot of defensive linemen overall. McDougal goes to the Steelers to replace George Pickens. And the pick before us is going to be the Rams, and they end up selecting Josh Flynn as expected. So now we're on the clock, and we have plenty of trade offers. So before I make the pick, I do want to just take a look and see what these are, because if you can trade back with a good trade, it could be an option here with this pick. This is the 2029 draft, so looking for a trade back to maybe just a few picks later here in this first round, with a few extra picks included, I want to stay in the first round and not just lose a first round pick. But the Raiders, I'm not sure this draft is, or this trade is even worth it. You gain a 7th rounder, but is that really worth moving back 4 spots or whatever it was? I ended up not making the trade because I just was not a fan of the offers. And so, try not to lose Julian Kilroy to any other team. We're going to draft him in the first round, pick 18. Welcome to Los Angeles, hidden development, 91 speed, really great overall athletic ratings besides the strength, but not a concern for a corner. Really excited about this pick. I think he'll be a really high overall, and with hidden dev, I can't wait to see what he can become as probably our 3rd corner going into this next season. We'll see what he can do as a new piece to our secondary. Going through the rest of this first round, I'm thinking about going probably tight end in this second round and trying to add a really nice piece to our offense, as we have now added one to our defense in the most important area. So, latter half of this first round, Cameron Butler is the Nathan Kinney replacement in Seattle, and the Bills draft the Josh Allen replacement, Lynn Wooden, with pick 31. Last pick of the first round is Jake Johnson, the left guard out of Utah. He goes to Philly, and through round 1, every tight end is still on the clock. There was not a single one drafted round 1. But with the first pick in the second round, the Dolphins take Chris Bush, who was that top tight end. Up to our pick now in the middle of the second. On the board, we have plenty of players. Tight ends are all still here besides Chris Bush, obviously. But also our 2 really good defensive tackles. Matt Hayward, who was supposed to go round 1, is here. Great overall athlete, really good strength and speed with B power moves and finesse moves, C block shed. Really good play rec too. But then James Allen, I liked even more. A better athlete with higher bench press, so probably higher strength, with A power moves, B finesse moves, and C block shed with same play rec, A tackling. And so I immediately drafted him. I did not think he was going to be available here, so I was planning on going for tight end, but if he's here, I'm taking him. 93 strength, 77 speed, and hidden development. He should be a home run pick for the Niners. We go to the 3rd round here, and Devin Russell is the only tight end left. I have a couple other players still here, so I decided to not miss out on the last tight end that I had on the draft board, so we're going to select Devin Russell here. He's not hidden dev, but 81 speed, 78 strength. We'll see about him. I liked his skill set in terms of the offensive ratings for catching the ball, so we'll see what he can do. In the 4th round, after the Rams draft a right tackle, we're back on the clock here. We got 2 corners, and then we have Charles Valentine here, and with the pick to James Allen, I figured we could go with more secondary picks. And my line of thinking here on these next 2 selections was essentially these guys won't be getting too much playing time this next year, but give it 2 or 3 years and these guys could both be replacement starters for Diamador Lenoir and Taylor Britt. So that's the game plan with Chris Staley here. Then also in the 5th round, I wanted to go with the other corner that was still there, Reggie Oliver, who we had used the focus scouting on. He was the only guy left on our draft board, with Charles Valentine going a few picks earlier in the 5th round at like pick 15. So with this pick, we do select Reggie Oliver because of the pretty well-rounded coverage skills and the beat catching. He's got 91 speed, normal dev, so nothing special there really, but I think he and Staley could both be starters in 2 or 3 seasons. In the 6th round, I was first thinking about going for running back depth and taking Mike Nance, who was really fast. But with poor strength, I saw Blakely here instead, and he's got good strength with good power moves and good speed, just a solid athlete, so I chose him instead. 84 strength, 81 speed, normal dev. We'll see if he's going to be a good overall or not. Our last pick is going to be Sean Townsend here for some linebacker depth because we're missing some off-ball linebackers. So gonna draft him, and that is the end of the draft. Let's check out this draft recap. And we absolutely killed our first 2 picks. Julian Kilroy and James Allen are both absolute beasts. So Kilroy here is a man-to-man archetype with really good man coverage, and the zone is actually in a really good starting place. So very happy with this pick. I expect this guy to be a really big piece to our defense over the course of these next 4 years on his rookie contract. And the same goes for defensive tackle James Allen, the 2nd round pick, 77 power rusher with 83 power moves. That is what I'm talking about, man. The play work is also very high. The awareness is good. This guy's going to be an absolute beast on this defensive line. He will be a starter for sure, as will... Well, Kilroy's going to be our 3rd corner, which is not a starter technically, so... Allen will be starting, though. So, right now, he's our lone starter. Devin Russell is a 68 overall, so not as high as I thought. We'll see if he ends up starting. He might over Chris Fairley. I'm considering him as the starter for now. Chris Staley has pretty solid man coverage skills, zones right behind it, so he's in a pretty good starting place at a 70 overall. I think he'll be a pretty good piece for us in just even 1 or 2 years. Oliver might take a bit longer with the coverage skills being a tad lower, but I think he also has a chance to be a big piece in, like I said, 3 to 4 seasons. Blakely, probably not much of a starting future with Middleton and Ezekiel Chambers now on the team, but could be some real solid depth for the pass rush. And then Sean Townsend here is going to give you no pass rush whatsoever with less than 57 pass rush moves for power and finesse, but the block shit's pretty solid. So give it, 3 or 4 years if you're still here on the team, and you might be starting just like the other guys. The top pick was Julian Green, the best overall player in this draft. Hidden developments, really solid zone coverage. He's going to start. He's kind of the replacement there for Budda Baker, who signed elsewhere. The Bears drafted the Jonathan Torres replacement with Gabe Taylor. He's got really good throw power and deep accuracy, while the tight ends drafted normal dev Ron Bagley. The Nathan Kinney replacement, Cam Butler, is a hidden dev player with really good short accuracy. Meanwhile, the Bills drafted Lynn Wooden, who is also a hidden dev, and he's kind of the opposite of Josh Allen with kind of low throw power but really high short accuracy. So there are all the quarterback replacements there as they have headed elsewhere. The George Pickett's replacement in Pittsburgh is George McDougal. Really good spec catch and short route running, which is honestly really good for a receiver for anybody really out of the draft. But now for tight ends. Chris Bush is normal dev but a 75 overall with really good catching and acceleration. Then you got Eric Springs here in the 2nd round, and he has really good speed. Mostly a solid athlete, needs to work on the route running and all that. Alex Wooden here is hidden dev, 75 vertical threats, solid spec catch and medium route running, which is good for a tight end. Scott Harden was hidden dev, so we kind of missed out on the better tight end options here for sure. Josh Lindley was also hidden developments with 84 catching, 76 spec catch, really good catch in traffic. Then Valentine went at pick 14 here in the 5th round, and he was a 71 overall hidden dev player, so he was really, really good. Just not as good as James Allen. So I like what we got in the draft. Do you take a better tight end for Charles Valentine? Honestly, probably not, because Allen is going to be a beast. Like, I can tell that he's going to be a beast. So I think I like who we got instead of what the plan was. In terms of trade offers here with Akeem Burrell, I want to give Harrison the starting job next year because of the superstar depth trait. So I'm going to trade Burrell to the Broncos and move Brian Warmack, who we just acquired in that trade, to free safety. And now he's a 71 overall, so he'll play right behind Harrison, who's going to start at 70 overall. We also got offers for Deebo Samuel, but I wasn't a fan of any of these ones, so I'm going to decline those and keep him around for another year, despite 2 years of trade talks. But then I ran into a major concern of mine, which is why I have cut this episode in half before starting this next year. The Buccaneers, after I undid the signings of Josh Allen and Torres, despite having an X-Factor quarterback, Eric Baldwin, they signed both Josh Allen and Jonathan Torres. How? I don't know. I think it's because at this point it was preseason, so they had signed it from a different free agent list than from the usual thing that we do in the offseason. So they have 3 quarterbacks on the roster, all of them starter worthy. I don't know how to fix it. I can't undo those signings, so I'm not sure how to fix it. If you guys know how, let me know. If we can't, might just have to let it ride out for 1 year because they're both on 1-year contracts, so we'll see. But here's the offense going into preseason. Got Ayuk and Brennan as your top 2 receivers. McCaffrey, the running back. Purdy, the quarterback. Russell, the tight end. The offensive line is definitely kind of shaky in terms of the ratings, but they were solid last year, so I have faith that they'll do even better this year with the developments. On defense, as I said, Harrison and Hufanga will start side by side. Lenoir and Taylor Britt are your top 2 corners right now, with Kilroy as the third. And we're going to start James Allen alongside Lorenzo Shaw at defensive tackle, with Chambers and Middleton on the edge. Greenlaw and Delvin Matthews as the linebackers, and Fred Warner as the on-ball linebacker. And there's your defense right there. Pat Phillips and Cook return as the kicker and punter respectively. And we're going to have Allen be the rush defensive tackle this year. With those power moves, I think we might have a really good pass rush in, say, 1 season, maybe even this year. And speaking of this pass rush, Middleton had a really strong camp. He gets +3 power and finesse moves here in the preseason. Really good for him going into this next year. We end up going 2-1 in the preseason with a 24 ranked defense and the 16th ranked offense, with the passing game looking really solid here. So, not going to put too much stock into preseason rankings or stats, but let's go through them real quick anyways. Brock Purdy had a really good preseason with a fantastic rating of just below 140. 5 touchdowns, no picks. Sean Lindsay also passed the ball very well. 3 touchdowns, 1 INT. Christian Kelly got 3.7 per carry on the ground, but McCaffrey had 3.0 with 1 touchdown. Hopefully that's not a sign of things to come. Ayuk had 4 touchdowns to lead the team. Brennan racked up the 2nd most receiving yards. Samuel caught a touchdown, as did a couple other players. The blocking was pretty solid for the starting linemen. Only 2 total sacks allowed by the starting 5. On the defensive side, Greenlaw had the most tackles. And in terms of sacks, we had quite a bit in the preseason. From Greenlaw, Shaw, Chambers, Hufanga, Norden, Warner, and Matthews all getting involved in the pass rush game. INT for Ben Stevenson, the backup strong safety, while Pat Phillips was perfect on PATs but missed 2 field goals, both of which were from 50 plus. We'll see about him. Upgrade points for a couple of players. We are going to wrap up the episode here. Got Chambers up 1. Middleton out of the strong preseason goes up 1 with +3 power moves and +1 speed. Really nice upgrade there for him. For Gordon Harrison, +2 zone coverage. I love that for the defense going into this 2nd year for the rookie safety. And then Pat Phillips, +2 accuracy. Really good upgrades here for all 3 sides of the ball. These are the preseason cuts. No real major moves here. All of them were kind of no-name players, so nothing to really talk about here. But that's going to really wrap up the episode, folks. Again, if you know how to fix the quarterback signing thing, then just please let me know, because I don't want it to happen, but if it does, it does. So please like and subscribe, comment down below, and give me your thoughts on the offseason, folks. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.